Here.
Hallway.
Here.
Councillor Kemp.
Here.
Councillor Long.
Present.
Councillor Callaghan.
Present.
Councillor Pringle.
Present.
Councillor Rowe.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Present.
That's everybody back in and ready, Chair. And you're on mute.
Sorry, is that including Councillor Hodgson?
Yes.
She's back in now, is she? Excellent. Okay, right. Well, we'll progress. We'll move on to agenda item 6B and over to Ms. Houselander. Good to see you. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. And good afternoon, members. I'll just share my screen to show the presentation. Hopefully, shortly you will see that. Okay, so this is a planning application for a site known as Rainbow View Parkers Way in Totnes. It's identified on this slide with the red hatching. Steamer quay is down here for sort of people's reference. Totnes Bridge just up here and the river running down by the side. This slide obviously shows it as a Google image, and this is the site. Well, this is the building on the site, and the site extends around here, up to here, across, and then down to the road edge at this point here. The building, I'll just go in a bit closer. I just wanted to show this slide because I wanted to draw members' attention to the fact that it's actually a building on its own site, and it's actually some distance away from the surrounding development. So that's just for members' information. This is the site as it is at the current time, a bit of a mess. It's a construction site. This is the building upon which the applicant wishes to place 2 stories. It's currently 2 stories, but with a bit of an underbuild as well. This is the other element of the north-south element of the building, which was given planning permission in 2020 for the removal of the pitch roof and an additional story on this element of the building, and it's currently underway. Again, this is the existing building being under construction, and this is the element of the building to the on the east-west access of the site, which the 2 stories are proposed on. This is a view from the Camomile Lawn development at the rear, showing that from that development there's a change in levels between the site itself and the rear Camomile Lawn development. So from that development you can just see the top floor of the existing building. So various views from here. This is the end of the building. This is again the westernmost end of the building, with the main element of the building just a bit further forward from this direction. Same again. I want to draw attention as well to members to the trees along this boundary, which I think are quite significant, and I've asked our tree officer to look at them, and he's serving a temporary tree preservation order on them so that they're protected during development process and for afterwards. This is the Camomile Lawn development to the rear. This building on the right hand side is the extra care facility, which is also has elements of 4 and 5 stories actually. So there is some degree of precedent in the area for slightly higher buildings. This again is slightly further back. This is along the zigzag path which runs down to Steamer Quay from Camomile Lawn. So this is the site proposal itself. This is the building which is currently under construction. You can see my cursor, and this is the building where they would like to add 2 stories. The illustration on the top shows the solar panels, which are proposed to be put on the top of the building as in the north-south building as well. There are 44 parking spaces on the site. The total number of units within both blocks will be 31. 22 of them are one-bed apartments, and a further 9 are two-bed apartments. So the parking is sufficient for that number of units, plus 4 visitor spaces. And they're also including 6 electric vehicle charging spaces within the site area as well. This is a slightly more detailed just plan of the floor area. So the flats unusually are sort of maisonette style flats in that they're over 2 floors. So there's 5 flats with a living, dining area on the 3rd floor, and the bedroom spaces on the top floor. And this is the elevation that you would see from Parker's Way. The top part of the building is set back slightly from the frontage, and the properties up here will have a small terrace in front of them. So I think that will help to reduce the bulk of the top floor slightly. I know there are some concerns about the height of the building. In total, it's about 5 metres taller than this building, so it's not substantially taller. And this is a section through, so this is standing in Parker's Way, looking up through the site. So in terms of the site itself and the application in my view is acceptable. The trees at the rear some of them are oaks, so they will end up being quite substantial trees. I think it's really important that they're retained, so to give some breakup of the bulk of the building from the chamomile lawn development. But in terms of planning policy, it is compliant, and the recommendation is therefore for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Houslander. Members, any questions, please? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, my phone's going crazy. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the officer. She referred to a temporary tree protection. I think a TPO, is clearly usually a tree protection order, not a temporary protection order.
No. Sorry.
Is that correct? That's
no, sorry. The officer is going to put a temporary tree preservation order on them in the short term, and then when he gets to the stage where he confirms the order, he will refine it slightly, because it's a group order at the moment, and he wants to make sure that he's covered the correct number of trees, and so that's why it's a temporary one at this stage.
Thank you. And just my second question, if I may, Chair. The first map that was shown, which is the one previous to the one that's looking at us now on the screen,
yeah.
I think that's an out-of-date map, because it doesn't actually have all the new quayside development. So it's actually, I think it's a bit unfortunate that, because it doesn't show that this Parker's Barn is, as it's now being proposed, sits in the middle of a much bigger area of development. Is that correct?
Yes, I think you're right there. Apologies for that.
Thank you. That's all.
Chair, you're on mute.
Is he there at all?
No, I think he's just dropped off. So if you could bear with us, please, we'll try and get the chair back on as soon as possible.
I hope he's dropped out rather than dropped off.
That was naughty.
Irresistible though.
Are we still there?
We all are, Councillor Rowe. We're just waiting for to get Councillor Brazil back into
Right,
the
I
call.
thought perhaps I dropped off. No, I'm all right. Very good.
This is a lot longer than last month's one.
It will be a good job when we can get back into Fullerton House to have these meetings, so we can have face-to-face meetings.
Can I remind councillors that we are still live streaming?
Thank you.
Thank you.
An update, councillors. The chair is having to reboot, and maybe about 5 minutes. He has suggested perhaps Councillor Foss, as the vice chair, could chair this section until he's back.
Okay, Janice, I will do that if you wish. We now need to call Mr. Ian Walmsley, the supporter. Yes?
That's correct.
Are you there, Mr. Walmsley?
Chairman, I did indicate I had a question for the planning officer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Long. Yeah, okay. We'll do that first then.
Is Jacqueline on the line
Yes,
still?
yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Of the views, there's obviously I'm pleased to see the TPO served on the trees there, which is I think crucial for this development. I didn't see, unless I missed it, the views to or from the properties in, I believe it's Parker Close, which are close to the end of that section, which is going to be redeveloped. I know it's an end aspect, not a direct overlooking, but obviously I'm not sure, are they houses or flats?
They are houses, yes. 2-storey houses, again set at a slightly lower level than the site. The site itself is sloping, so it slopes upwards from Parker's Way to the position where the north-south the east-west building is located, and the dwellings or the properties to the west are two-storey houses. I did try to get a view from there, but unfortunately the houses, and because of the change in levels, completely block any views of that of the site from that position, from that location. So it was I did walk around there to try to get a view, but wasn't able to, I'm afraid.
Right. I'm sorry because I tried sort of it's a complex sort of application. What is the distance from that end to the actual properties?
Oh, hang on a second. Let me just check. If you're happy, no, I have to do it on here. So just bear with me 1 second.
Thank you.
Councillor Long, whilst we're waiting for that, so then because Councillor Kemp is just above you. I don't know if she asked that question or not.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm back now. Sorry about that. Yeah, when I went out, Councillor Kemp was just going to ask a question.
Yeah, we've had Councillor Long ask a question, Chairman, which we haven't had an answer to as yet. So if you wait for that, I should think you could carry on with the meeting. No, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, if I just have an answer to Councillor Long's question, and I didn't hear what Councillor Kemp had to say at all.
No, we haven't had that yet.
I haven't asked yet.
Okay,
No.
so yeah, just answer Councillor Long's and then we'll move on to Councillor Kemp. Sorry about that, members.
Okay, sorry for the delay. Yeah, the distance is just over 24 metres.
Okay, thank you. So I'm obviously concerned that obviously the existing building is there, as to whether the additional 2 stories is overbearing on that site. Would have been great to have had a site visit for this particular thing. So I just need to know the distance. Thank you.
If I can just come in briefly, Chair, just so that you haven't missed anything and then are still able to vote. The question was just in relation to the surrounding buildings, and you've heard the answer, so you are now up to date.
Thank you very much, Ms Young. Yes, thank you for that. Councillor Kemp.
Hi, Jacqueline. In one of the photographs that you showed just now, there was quite a lot of new trees I saw planted. Can we go back to that? Is that going to be affected at all, or? So along this boundary, there are some relatively young trees, as I understand it from the tree officer, but they are some of them are oaks, and they will develop into quite significant trees longer term. So it's really important that we protect them. Yeah. This one in particular, I think there probably are some newer trees. No, there was some planting by some, on some shorter. That's it. Yeah, this is the planting that was as a result of the I don't know if it's the extra care facility or the chamomile lawn, probably extra care. Okay. So yes. Are they going to be left in? They're not going to be affected, are they not? No. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions for Ms Houselander? No. In which case, we'll move on to the speakers. Now, unfortunately, I've lost my speakers because that was.
It's Mr. Ian Walmsley, Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, sorry, Mr. Walmsley. Are you with us, sir?
I think you might be on mute.
Mr. Walmsley. Do we have Mr. Walmsley in the meeting?
Yes, Chair. He's showing us here, but he's showing us on mute.
It's definitely showing muted on there.
Yeah. Do we have
And again, although requested, we do not have a copy of his presentation.
Okay, so we seem to have lost Mr. Well, he's maybe on the screen, but I don't know if he's there.
I think he may have dropped off.
I would have thought he would have heard you, surely.
Yep.
Okay, in which case,
we can have a try dialing him in, Chair.
Okay, well, while we're doing that, I know he was here earlier. He kept popping up on the screen. We'll move to Councillor Allen from the Town Council, if she could make her presentation, please.
Hi, yes. I just want to say thank you very much for giving the Town Council a chance to speak, and that's due to Councillor Birch and Councillor Sweet, so I'd like to thank them. The Planning Committee at Totnes Town Council has expressed repeatedly its disappointment that although we were assured by the developer when this building was first proposed, we didn't have an objection to the building when it was first proposed, because it would contain a high number of affordable units suitable as first-time people in Totnes to get onto the housing ladder. What has in fact happened is that although a number of smaller flats have been built, the ones so far, they appear to be too small to live in and too expensive for first-time buyers, and they have been marketed on Rightmove and other marketing agencies as holiday flats and Airbnbs. We would just like the committee to note that. So it could be argued that they were designed as luxury holiday flats and lets from the start, which was a disappointment to the committee, to the Town Council committee, and which doesn't give us confidence in the assertion that this next phase will be building for local people. This development has grown and grown from its initial proposal, and we believe it's time to call for a halt to it. Galliford Try, which is next door, I think the planning officer mentioned it, is 5 stories high. There's already a lot of development in that area, which I think Councillor Hodgson alluded to as well. And it's very, very prominent, particularly from the river entrance from Dartmouth. And when Galliford Try was built, the Town Council raised concerns that it would set a precedent in this area for larger buildings, which of course are sort of not natural in Totnes. I think it's the largest building except for the churches in Totnes, the Galliford Try building. And we don't want to see that set as a precedent. We are concerned about massing and about overdevelopment, yes. We're also concerned about the following. The height created by the additional floors is overbearing and unpleasant for neighbouring properties. We've had a lot of representation about this. It creates a loss of natural light to properties across the road in Parkers Way, particularly during winter months. And several residents of Parkers Way have been in contact with us regarding this, and to say that their bathrooms are at the back of the house. So although I recognise the sight line that the planning officer showed earlier, from the bedrooms, it's very different. So, sorry?
You have 30 seconds remaining of your 3 minutes.
Right, sorry, I've overspoken. Particularly from the balconies, which are on that building, because the balconies can obviously see straight into the windows at the back. We also talked about the adequacy of the number of fire escapes, the number of properties. I think that's outlined in the application, or the response to the application. We're also concerned about the increase in parking spaces. We welcome them, but we would like to see them coming with electric charging points to suit
3 minutes, Chairman.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Are there any questions for Councillor Allen as the Town Council representative? No, in which case I will go back to Mr. Walmsley, if you're here.
Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are, indeed, sir.
Excellent, lovely. Apologies.
Yep.
I don't know what happened, but there we go. Technology for you. Right, okay, shall I start?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. It's always been our desire to make our properties affordable. For properties under £200,000, we have triple the number of flats for sale than the rest of Totnes put together, and are getting a very number of strong inquiries from first-time buyers thanks to Help to Buy on the site. However, some people are asking for 2 bedrooms, and these apartments are designed for this. The prices of our flats do start at under £130,000. Despite prices rising in Devon, we have not altered our prices. These are the cheapest prices in the town. With a proposed 5% deposit in the budget today and Help to Buy, we're in a unique position to be able to make the properties on site affordable by so many more and help young people move back to the town. The height of the new proposed building will be similar to that on the agreed north-south and annex. At no point do the shadows from the building affect neighbours due to the direction of the sun's movements. The shadows are primarily to the north onto the car park as seen on the latest satellite views on Google. We have worked, and I have worked very hard with the local neighbours, and they all have the contact details for myself as a managing director of Leading Homes. And we've erected a nice new fence for the properties that are closest by us with hanging baskets for them to adopt and plant in years ahead. For parking, we have in excess of 1 car park space per bedroom, and there is no need for any resident to visit or visitor to park on the road. We also have 2 additional spaces which can be seen on the screen in front of you, which are not actually on the plan, which are in addition to the 44 already on the plan proposed. And we are quite happy, I'm quite happy for residents of the new apartments being discussed to be excluded from any future residence parking permits for Parkers Way. We do not see large additional traffic movements, and in fact, it will be 106 trips per day less to the flats than were for the offices that were previously done. We are also in discussions to allow a rear access across to the zigzag footpath that you see. Bike stores have already been approved of cycling, and I'm already in talks with a bicycle provider to try and offer subsidised bicycles to residents. Car charging points are already approved for electric cars, and these have the ability to be automatically extended in the years ahead as demand grows, so we can extend those, which is one comment I just heard. Bus stop is also right outside the property to encourage people to take that option into town as well. We have 4,500 square feet of amenity land on the site, as I feel personally that it's very important to residents. Most of the build that we are proposing will be constructed off-site to minimise the disruption to residents. And finally, I have organised gigabit fibre to the premises so that along with the amenity land, we're going to create a good work-life environment. And certainly we are not promoting any of these for holiday use or anything else. This is very much residential. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Members, any questions for Mr. Walmsley? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I've got a few questions actually. Hello, Mr. Walmsley. We've met before.
Hello, hi.
Thank you for being here today.
Good to see you. No problems.
Yeah, so I've got a few questions really. I mean, one of the things that's really come out from COVID has been this whole, recognition of the need for outside space for people. If I mean, I know there's been a question raised. I don't know if you were able to hear it from Councillor Allen regarding that these properties are being advertised as holiday lets and holiday lets on right to buy. So that seems rather odd. But just thinking about it, if it is for accommodation to meet the needs of local people, I just wonder where the open space is that's is being provided with this. Sure. I mean, are you cramming too many people in? Do you want all my questions, or should we do it one at a time?
Yeah, sure. Go on. Sorry, apologies. Sorry, carry on.
I don't mind.
I don't mind. We do one at a time. I mean, the amenity space is to the rear of the building. It's rather hard to see by the trees on the satellite view, but we are also on the area to the left. We are proposing allotments as well for residents. We are looking at the soil conditions as to whether we can actually offer that, but if not, that will be amenity land as well. So the whole area to the south is amenity land. I ought to point out that the building that is most to the south, we actually removed as well. So we actually reduced the footprint of the original building rather than converting that. I think it's about 1,000 square meters, something like that. Don't quote me on that, but we actually removed that. So that sort of bit at the bottom right has actually gone, and we actually removed that from the site. So we didn't convert all the former offices under prior approval that we could have done at the time. But yes, certainly to the rear. A lot of the trees, if not the majority of the trees that you mentioned previously, they're actually on the land behind us. So, they're beyond the boundary fence. But again, it's very important to me to keep those trees there. I want them to be kept. I do not want them to be removed at all. So I welcome any temporary TPOs or anything like that. I have no objections to that.
Okay. In terms of affordable housing delivery, I know you're saying that these properties are all very cheap. It has been raised though that they're actually very small. So would you say they're good value?
I'm biased, obviously, but yes, I think from under 130,000, the problem that we have had is the fact that we have had many inquiries from young people who used to live in the town and can't be in the town, so they've actually sort of moved out to Torquay, places like this, and want to move back. So with Help to Buy, which provides 20% of the funding provided by the government, as far as that is concerned, that's been very popular, and we are seeing people move in. The lady I met one that's moving in next week after, be our first resident. She's absolutely over the moon to be able to afford something that she can actually buy within the town. So yes, I don't feel that they're too small. They're all high spec. We have electric heating on via the skirting boards. They've got gigabit internet, as I said. You know, they are done to a high specification, but not to a high price.
Okay. And just in terms of the green travel plan that has been sought by the town council, I know you've mentioned things like EV charging, but is there is there any reason to not include a car shared scheme? You know, in other words, a membership scheme, which has actually been looked at in other places coming into Totnes. Has that been considered at all?
We are, I mean, first of all, as I said, I'm in talks with a company to try and provide bicycles to reduce price. The car charging points, we show 6, but the way that this has been designed is that they can be easily extended to other spaces as demand increases in the years ahead. I'm fully aware that, you know, we are going to have to get rid of diesel and petrol vehicles. So, you know, the ability to provide is vitally important to me personally. But yeah, no, look, we are open to anything. We always are open to ideas and schemes and then anything else. And we will work with, and I've always had, and as you said earlier at the beginning, Councillor Hodgson, you know, I've met with the local councillors and my door has always been open. I'm a hands-on director, and it's, yeah, but I want the best for the town. I love Totnes, and, you know, I've fallen, you know, this place I actually sort of thoroughly enjoy coming down to on a regular basis and talking with the neighbours, of which I give them regular newsletters as well on a regular basis. So.
Okay, thank you. If I might just ask a further question, with the picture that's on the screen, which is the kind of obviously the, you know, the drawing for the actual site, you've referred to 1,000 square meters in the bottom right hand corner, which is those buildings that are kind of where there's like three big
sorry,
feet.
1,000 4,500 square feet.
So that's the building that's marked as like 3 big rectangles pointing sort of just where the cursor is.
No, it is the area down to the bottom left of the screen. So it's all that area down there.
And that's for allotments, is it? That's for allotments behind the trees.
All that, and also behind the gardens, which you can see, which have lightly paved, all down there. I did a quick measure on Google Maps a couple of days ago, and that was where I came up with that measurement.
If I just may respectfully say that I think allotments would need a lot more light than would be. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that it's up to the trees, but I just think we're just trying to be really frank here to really understand what's going on. And can I just ask, have you been in contact with any affordable housing delivery groups regarding any of these new properties that you're bringing in here? Are they going to be sort of put out on Devon Choice, for example, which is how most people on the housing list access properties?
Sure. No, I mean they haven't. They haven't actually sort of. We haven't actually been in direct contact with regards to them, but we have been talking with housing trusts as far as some of the flats are concerned on the building.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Kemp.
Hello there. I just wondered what is to be included for the residents on the amenity land apart from the proposal for allotments. I just wondered if I could have a bit more detail on that, please.
Yeah, I mean, they're south facing, so we have the landscapers on site at the moment. They are installing patios, they're installing paths, and there are direct access to this area for all residents. It's not excluded from any particular resident. It's not for any, it's not for a select few. It is for all residents of Rainbow View. So certainly, there'll be, paving areas as well as sort of lawn areas. And yes, I mean, if we can't do the allotments, which is ideal, but if not, then that will be laid to grass as well. So,
okay.
It's not,
And some kind of recreational sort of areas, benches,
yeah,
trees,
basically,
all that kind of thing.
Totally.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I missed. What's the average cost of one of the apartments?
Starting from 130,000, which is. I just had a quick look on Rightmove, and certainly there isn't anything that really compares on Rightmove at the moment. And if you go from lowest to high, then in apartments, flats, then it sort of dominates all the pricing locally at the moment. Plus also the Help to Buy, which we have and will continue to have. The scheme's altered as from 1st of April, but we will have that for first-time buyers as well. It's currently open to all at the moment.
Okay, and if I may, can I just ask how the amenity areas, how are they going to be maintained? Are you going to use local companies, garden companies, etc., to maintain rather than tendering out to companies from Cornwall or Torbay? Or
100%. We have a local company who is, we've always employed local people on the site. Local companies currently doing the landscaping at the moment. We have a management company who will look after everything for all the residents. And yes, it is our intention to always have local people all the time.
Okay, and will the residents have a say in what's to be facilitated for them on the amenity areas?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
Every resident has a voice, yes. And if they don't have, they can come to me as well. They'll have my details as well. And if they sort of at any point say, "Hey, Ian, we don't have a," I will make sure that they do. There's no way I'm going to allow it otherwise. So yeah, we're not selling this off to some London-based company or anything else. I live in the southwest, and I'm looking for sites and everything else. So I'm passionate about it. You might tell. So
okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
No problems.
Okay, Councillor O'Callaghan.
Thank you. There's just a question, Mr. Walmsley, on the proposed height. I'm slightly confused as to the existing situation. Are we talking about an east-west block here? And there's a north-south one, which I'm not clear. Is that already got permission for the same height, or what's the position with the other block?
It already has planning permission. The planning permission was approved last year for replacing the pitch roof with a new floor. Yes, it's already been approved, and work is starting on that fairly soon. So yes.
So that would bring this east. If you've got permission for this one, it would bring. They would both be the same height, then, would they?
Very similar. Very similar. Yes, there's not a lot.
It's we didn't really have. Sorry, Mr. Walmsley, we didn't really have photos showing any possible effect on nearby residents, but there was fears raised about people in, was it Parker Close, I think, So would that possibility of being over dominating just be from the east-west building, or would that also be from the north-south one then?
No, the north-south are all designed, and again, everything is designed to, I mean, as I think the officer said, it was the top floor is set back as well, because of the way that the sun moves. A lot of shadows are actually to the north within the car park, and the distance from the thing is considerably more than 20 meters. I mean, it's something in the region of 40 or 50 meters to the stuff in front of it, if you like. And from the back, it's obviously blocked by the tree line, which at the moment is, obviously a lot of photos have been taken during the winter, and those trees will grow, and that will sort of further block anything from the south as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Callaghan. Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Walmsley. I'm interested that obviously you've got a phased development. This one has now come in to sort of increase. Once you've completed what is before us, that proposal, there are no other proposals on that site. There's not anything else that you're looking at. That will be the development completed.
The building cannot take any more floors. It probably could, but we have no intention of going up at all. No, I mean, the floors are complete as far as these proposals are concerned. So yes, it's the car parking does not warrant us to increase the number of flats at all, and we have no intention of doing so. And we did at some point, I'm just going to be completely open and honest with you, at some point we did have proposals to erect a block to the left, so north, east, west of the site, but I realised that this was an overdevelopment, and I pulled that idea from our internal team. So that was, and I thought, well, amenity land is far more important, especially post-COVID, to people, and that's far more important to me. And also for the safety. I mean, we have auto mist on the site for sort of sprinklers, which we weren't obliged to actually provide, but we went and increased the safety of residents. They are all have these systems within the flats to provide it, and I don't want to overpopulate the number of flats that we have here. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I'm just being transparent and open with you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Walmsley. That was because obviously some developers do try to squeeze in as much, and I noted the site was, with some developers would have been a possibility of squeezing something else in. So I'm pleased that you've said that, because as already been highlighted, amenity space, open space, parking, all of that is a requirement and essential at this time. So thank you for that explanation.
I can categorically say, and you can obviously, I'm on recording here, I can categorically say there will not be one single additional flat created here. I do not want any more flats whatsoever here. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Members, any more questions to Mr. Walmsley? No, in which case, thank you very much, Mr. Walmsley. Much appreciated.
No, thank you very much.
We will now move on to the ward members. Councillor Sweet, if you're here, if you'd like to go first.
Hi, thank you. Look, I've got a ghostly image. I'm sorry about that, although it might actually be better. I'll try not to repeat what Councillor Allen said, though, thank you for her presentation. I mean, I think this is an application which really does need a site visit. I know some members will be familiar with the site from previous applications, but I'm really concerned about that gradient slope down towards Parker's Close, which is on the west side. So I'm really concerned about that elevation. Jacqueline's been asked about taking a photograph there. There is actually a lane that runs along the back of those houses where a photograph could have been taken from, which I think this also highlights the need for site visits, because that could have been pointed out. So from those houses on Parker's Close, their windows are going to be completely dominated by that extra 5 meters. I had talked to the officer and to see whether perhaps the application could be amended to only having 3 extra 2-bedroom house apartments there, or only 1 extra floor, because I think that would have really helped. I think the quantity of the objections really highlight the range of concerns of the community, not least the marketing of second homes, which has been mentioned. And it was really disheartening to see on Rightmove Airbnb packs available, which I assume that means furnishings. Anyone using Colverdale, the road there, especially at busy times, will know that it is already at capacity with traffic. There's parking all over the place on the roads. We've already had increased parking from the developments at Camomile Lawn and at Great Court Farm and down at the retirement dwellings there. Our county council is aware of these issues. So there's been prior permission given for 26 to 30 dwellings, and you're being asked to bring this to a total of 31. I'm really glad to hear that from Ian, actually, that there isn't a phase 3 proposed at this time. You have said there'll be no more flats, so I hope you also mean there'll be no more housing on the site at all. So just to draw attention to a couple of policies, SPT2 and Development 8, prioritisation of new homes. It's outlined that we are in fact already oversubscribed for 2 beds, and what we really need is larger family homes and single person homes. So the fact that there's 9 2-bedroom properties here and only 22 single homes is not great. Dev 2, impact on surrounding roads and light. Obviously the road is really, really busy, and I'm really concerned about the limitation of light going to the back of those properties at Parker's Close. I really think that needs further investigation. And Dev 10, this development is way too intense at this location. It does not provide sufficient space for families to thrive. Thank you for listening. I do appreciate some of the points that Ian's raised about affordable housing, but I think we're just over intensifying it at this point. And the 2 extra stories are just completely out of character. I think, again, we really need a site visit so you can appreciate where the gradients are in relation to the extra stories that have already been built down on the riverside, and the impact that it has sort of generally on a location which is predominantly social housing. I think we would have actually possibly had more objections if it wasn't housing association housing predominantly in that area, if it was private homes. That's why I feel, even more passionate about representing the residents in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweet. Is Councillor Birch here? Would you like to speak, Councillor?
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, members. As you all noticed, there have been 22 objections to this application, and furthermore, it is opposed by the Town Council. So what I would like to do is to seek to condense these objections into possible grounds for refusal of this application. And I would submit that the application conflicts with 2 of the JLP policies, and as such provide grounds for refusal. The first is policy Dev 8. Just to remind members, policy Dev 8 seeks to ensure that the mix of housing for an area is broad and meets locally identified housing needs. The report before you expressly states, and I quote, "This proposal does not therefore meet the housing needs identified." Therefore, there is within the report and within the fact that there is a conflict with the policy Dev 8, that provides, in my opinion, a valid ground for refusal. The second policy conflict is policy Dev 20, which seeks to ensure that design matters are acceptable. And again, within the report before you, it states context is a key consideration as outlined in policy Dev 20, and it must be acknowledged that the surrounding development is predominantly two-storey. What you're being asked to consider is a development that is twice the height of the surrounding, the majority of the surrounding properties. And again, I would suggest that that provides another ground for refusal. So in summary, I would ask you to look at the report and to home in on policy Dev 8 and policy Dev 20, which provide grounds for refusal and I believe reflect the views of those who objected together with the Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Is Councillor Rose here? I haven't seen him, so we'll assume that he's not. Just before we go into debate, members, it's an interesting application, this, because, and it highlights one of the issues that we have with permitted development. So this site has permitted development for up to 30 residential units, and we have no control over that at all. The government has seen fit to allow permitted development from this type of usage of building to residential, and it is outside of the control of this council. They're permitted to do it. So whereas I agree that Dev 8 in particular it doesn't satisfy the housing needs here, that actually what we have here is the fallback position is 30 units of accommodation, of which we have no control over at all. The reason why it's come before us is because they've gone to 31 and have just gone slightly outside of it. The issue of the design, I think, is absolutely fine for something that we can pick up on. But anyway, I'll just say that as by way of by way of introducing it, because it's not like a normal application. If this was for 31 residential units, we would be looking at lots of other things. But unfortunately, because of the fallback position they've got for 30, we find ourselves sort of beholden to government policy, I'm afraid. Anyway, having said that, members, over to you now for the debate. Who would like to start? Do we have anyone who wishes to? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, this is quite a significant development for the town, and it's something that has been visited on many occasions by the Town Council and indeed the Neighbourhood Plan Group. In fact, when this came up for Site Parkers Barn, some members who were on the South Hams as a council might remember that I actually asked South Hams if we could actually purchase it, because it was actually sold. I think it was on sale from Devon County Council for about 800,000, and I said, surely this is a good value where we could actually invest in social housing. What a missed opportunity is all I can say. I do think that the issues that have been raised and the number of objections and the concerns that have been raised and the ongoing concerns of the Town Council are not really being listened to, and that despite the fact that Mr. Walmsley, he has made fairly regular communication with the Town Council, but in the earlier stage when he first came forward for this site, he spoke to the neighbourhood plan officer we had at the time and for the Town Council, and he was very clear that this was going to really just be a refurb job for pretty much what was on site. There would be some tidying up, and that it was all going to be affordable housing. Obviously, what we're moving forward to here is, I would say, slightly different, and especially since, unfortunately, it hasn't been able to come forward. But certainly, Councillor Allen's comment about the housing advertisement that's on Right to Buy, which is for holiday lets and advertising the places, the apartments for Airbnb. does make one wonder what's actually going on here. They're very small apartments, so per square metre, as far as I understand it, they're actually very expensive. So though they might be cheap, I mean, a rabbit hutch, not being rude, a rabbit hutch would be cheap. These are small, and it's not therefore, and as we've heard, what we really need in the town is to see more in the way of affordable housing in this area, which is a very sustainable site for the town. You know, it's within walking distance, of the river, etc. In terms of the wildlife corridor that we saw, which you can see on the slide that's in front of us, if you look to where the zigzag path kind of cuts across that, there's obviously the wildlife corridor goes either side of there. If you follow your eye left, which you can't really see from here, is actually those are the buildings, the blue buildings you can see are right on the riverside, and in fact just there is a pinch point for the greater horseshoe bats. So maintaining the woodland and the trees in particular is really important for this, and we need to be very aware of that in terms of these new developments and the lighting constraints. I know that the condition that's been referred to in the officer's report says will conform to the ecology report, but I would actually like to see that really tightened up to that lighting needs to be looked at to make sure it's no greater than 0.5 lux. That is the maximum, because we have the greater horseshoe bats in this area, and you can see those linkages of wildlife corridors. We don't want to be stopping the bats going up and down. I will wait and listen to what other people's comments are on this, but I certainly think that the objections are exceed the benefits for this additional rising. I think it's overmassing of that site. It's going to have a dominant effect on Parker's Way. If you look at Parker's Way on the map, you can see those houses opposite. They are all just 2-storey. They are also lower, and behind them, of course, is Meadowbrook, the play area, which is very nice there. Where you can see Meadowbrook marked on the road there, regularly floods to the extent that houses just to the left there are often quite threatened. The infrastructure for drainage is very, very poor there, and regular flooding is something that this could actually make worse with the additional, additional use of these buildings and additional car parking that's going to be going on. So I do have major concerns on this, and in fact, so much so, regrettably, I actually move refusal.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Members, anyone else like to add to the debate at this stage? Councillor Rowe.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, alarm bells are ringing in my head, because at first I thought, yes, 5 units for people priced like 130,000 would be fine. It will give people a chance to get a home with a reasonable price. But then when I hear that they've been advertised online, wherever, Rightmove, etc., for second homes and Airbnb, well, this is not what we should be building new properties for. And I'm therefore quite concerned about this, because, and Councillor Hodgson has given good reasons. We've listened to her, we've listened to the local members, and I am minded. I think Councillor Hodgson moved refusal, yes?
Yeah.
So I will second refusal, and right. She's obviously got her reasons, but I don't think we should allow building houses to be let or sold off as second homes, and also for people to buy them as second houses to make a profit off by letting them out as Airbnb units. That's not what we're about, surely. Thank you.
No, can I say, Councillor Rowe, I entirely agree with you, but as I said at the beginning, the law of the land that this government has decided is that there is a thing called permitted development.
Yes.
You don't need to get permission from the local planning authority. You have the right to have residential units. And what those residential units are, as long as they fit the national space standards, whether they're sold for Airbnb or open market or second homes or whatever, is not for us to consider. I accept the reason why this has come before us is because there is an extra flat, rather than because they've got up to 30 residential units, and there is now 31. But I would caution against the fact that, you know, if this was if we could do it, we would have at least 30% affordable, and those would be fixed, and they'd be for local people and all of that. We're not in a position to force that, I'm afraid, in my view. So you know, by all means, I think we can object if members want to on design grounds, and the fact that it's higher and all of that is very relevant. But I think other issues in respect of affordability or what kind of apartments and things there, I'm afraid I think our hands are tied by government legislation.
Okay, I would be interested to know what the planning officers think about that.
I think that's very good. Perhaps Mr. Weimer or Ms. Houselander would like to come in just to explain the technical position that we find ourselves in here.
I'll come in, Chair, if that's okay.
Yes, please, Mr. Weimer.
And I can be very relatively quick on this. I think you've summed it up perfectly. The situation is that there's a permission there for up to 30 units. That it's under permitted development rights. When the change was that you could go from offices to dwellings without requiring consent. There is no change of use in planning terms from a dwelling that is occupied on a permanent basis to one that is occupied on a non-permanent basis. Hence, and that's a conversation we've had on numerous occasions. So that I agree with you. I believe in terms of the Dev 8 argument, or in terms of the argument along the lines of we shouldn't be approving this because of how the existing units are being either marketed or sold. I don't believe that's something that would stack up at appeal. I do think that if members have concerns about the scale and impact of the design, I think that's absolutely something that's to be considered. But I agree with your comments on the other issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weimer. Councillor Kemp.
Yeah, I just Mr. Walmsley has indicated that it is purely for locals, and he is supportive of locals, and so I'm a bit confused really. So it's being advertised, is that correct? That it's as second homes and Airbnbs, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm afraid that's not really it's not a matter for us. I mean, I think as myself and Mr. Weimer have said, that because of permitted development, we're not in a position to tie those units of accommodation to whatever. I mean, I appreciate what Mr. Walmsley said, but you know, he may be run over by a bus tomorrow, and if the application is approved, that you know, somebody else may have it, and it may be totally different in respect of how they intend to market it. But I don't think, whatever way one looks at that, it's something that we can tie down in the conditions of this, and I would caution against using that as a reason for refusal.
Okay, so but we can actually condition it though, that they are sold locally. There's a local restriction on it, can we?
Well,
not.
No, not really. The fallback position is there's 30 that don't have to be. The fact that it's gone to 31 means it's to come to us as a planning application, because they're changing the outside, you know, they're changing the look of it. So that's the reason why it comes to committee. But in respect of whether we can condition all the apartments to be only sold to local people, I don't think we're in a position to do that.
That's a bit nuts, isn't it, really?
Well, I'm afraid that is, you know, this is of nothing as to what may well be coming forward in respect of permitted development.
Oh, God. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor O'Callaghan.
It's largely been covered, except that concerns have been raised about possibility of being overbearing to neighbouring residents in, I think it was Parker Close. Unfortunately, we didn't seem to have any sort of photographic evidence, or I couldn't see any that was terribly clear on that. And we don't appear to be able to go on site visits, so it's quite difficult to make a judgment on that. So I'd be worried about that and erring on the side of caution, I think, for that reason.
Thank you. Councillor Foss.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Sort of a question and comment all in one, really. This is talking about putting extra height on this building, which I assume under new legislation, there was new legislation, wasn't there, where the existing such properties could have 2 more stories put on as permitted development. Is that the case? But can we argue that the height is going to affect the amenity of people immediately to, say, the east, in particular, with the sun, lack of light and such like? I mean, I agree, a site visit would have been really useful for this, because all the photographs in the world is not going to really explain that. But that's partly what if there is good reasons that we can stand behind that we'll turn this down, I will turn it down. But there is no point in doing that unless we have planning reasons that we can actually say, no, we don't like it, go away, come back with something else. So, I mean, there's a question and a comment all in one there.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Foss. I think officers are going to be checking about the permitted development as to the extra stories. My understanding is that with these kind of permitted developments, is that design is still a planning matter that we can that we can object on. But we'll see if they're allowed an extra story. They're just going to check on that. In the meantime, Councillor Long, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you were right, your sort of parting comment there. I think this should give everyone concern as to what we may see under the new general permitted development orders coming through. And I think it's sort of perhaps timely for us to consider this. I do have a problem with this increasing. Yes, they have permitted development for 30. We're squeezing it up, by 1. You might say that's, 1 is not that much of a concern. I believe it is. And also I have a big problem in the height increase by adding, the 2 additional floors onto that building because of the impact. Obviously, the residents of Parker Close have lived with a building which is 2 floors. It's above them. The slope is there. But to add that sort of dominance, I really do have a concern. And my concern is that they have between 26 and 30. Obviously, they're going up to 31. I believe that's an overdevelopment of, whether not an overdevelopment of the site as such, but certainly an overdevelopment of that block by adding that. And I don't agree with the increase in height. So notwithstanding all of the other comments, and I agree about, shouldn't be sold for sort of Airbnb, etc. We can't control that, as has clearly been said. It is a great shame, but my concern, however they're going to be, whether they're going to be occupied by locals or Airbnb, I don't believe that the height is justified, and I have a problem with increasing those numbers, beyond the 30, because we're talking 30 units, not, a particular size. So I can't agree with this application as it stands. Whether they can come back with something that is more acceptable, that isn't overbearing, doesn't present the problems that have been highlighted by many of the residents and the town council. At this stage, I can't support this application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Holway.
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at the maps and the view we have on the screen, I can't see that the extra height is going to take direct sunlight away from Parker's Close for very long. It's got a very narrow aspect towards Parker's Close. I realise that this particular photo has been taken nearer the middle of the day and probably in the summer because the shadows are pretty short. But that building's not going to restrict direct sunlight from the buildings in Parker's Close for very much of the day. And I think that needs to be considered. With regard to whether they're second homes or Airbnb or whatever, I do think that this kind of development has a place in most of our towns. There are people who do not want to have their own garden to look after. They'd be quite happy to just get outside and sit on a bench or whatever and let someone else look after it. And I do think that, you know, we keep talking about affordable homes for families. We don't want to put families in here. We want families to have decent houses with a bit of space and their own garden and somewhere for the kids to run round. And so if there are young couples with no children and it suits them to, they want to be in Totnes, they want to get their toe on the housing ladder, then I think this kind of development is ideal for them. And if some of the people have second homes or Airbnb or whatever, well, great, because again, it takes them away from the market for ordinary houses with gardens and other facilities. And so I don't think it's a bad thing. And in fact, I would be happy to move approval of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holway. Mr. Wymo, you wanted to say something?
Yes, very briefly. Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that if planning permission for residential use of the existing building was obtained through permitted development rights, as this one has, then the permitted development for going up 2 stories does not apply.
Right, thank you for that. I think that clears that up. So no, there is not permitted development to increase it there. Councillor Hodgson, you want to come back very briefly?
Yes, Chairman. I've just been looking on Rightmove. I can't find the advert that Councillor Allen referred to, but what I did find was adverts which I'm pretty sure are clearly for these apartments. And the ones for the two, it talks about new build, and obviously it's like, you know, buying on plan. And the two bedroom ones are 299.999 thousand per apartment, and the one bedroom ones are 2,014,000 per apartment for the 1 bedrooms. I don't think that's what we were told. I'm pretty sure they are the ones that will be referred to. So I just, you know, I'm just pointing that out. Okay.
No, thank you for that, Councillor Hodgson. I mean, I totally understand your frustration here, and I think all the councillors share it. But the truth of the matter is that 30 of these residential units have been allowed under permitted development, and we have no control over whether they're affordable or for local people whatsoever. You know, that is what permitted development is. I mean, for those of you that are in rural areas, we have this wretched Class Q, which allows barns to be turned into residential. I think there was one by just down from Councillor Birch's actually, and you know, we would not want there to be a residential, but we don't have any control over it because the government has said that the people can do it, and it's the law. So I think we need to steer clear of this, how much they're going to cost, whether they're Airbnb or whether they're, however much it annoys you, and I know it does, but I think we just have to accept that we're not in a position to question that. You know, we could possibly put something applied to the one, but I don't think that would be reasonable.
If I may just, Chairman, though, just come back. I mean, we sit here and we're told things by, you know, various people involved in the developments at all different stages. And I just think that, you know, it's like sometimes we just take it on trust, and just having quickly checked that, I can't absolutely put my hand on it. I just think, you know, we need to be aware of what's being offered here, and certainly the town council and the neighbourhood plan has always been told, oh, this is all going to be all affordable. You know, it's just been a changing story, and of course, if we're not careful, we end up with planning creep, which is the best way to, of course, get, you know, bit at a time where you're going to.
Yes. No. Look, Councillor, I understand that.
I've said enough. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I understand that entirely, and I mean, your comments have been noted. But you know, it is permitted development, and as such, we can't control it. Otherwise, we would control it, definitely, and it wouldn't matter what the developer said, because it would be controlled by condition by this planning authority. But we're not in a position to do that. Right. Did count? Sorry, has everyone spoken who wants to speak now? Right, in which case I've had a proposal for refusal, which is against offer recommendation. So that has been seconded. I'm going to ask for reasons for refusal, please. Bearing in mind what's been said by both myself and Mr. Weimer. Councillor Hodgson, I believe you proposed it, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll cite what Councillor Birch said, because I thought he said it very well. I think this development 8, which does not meet identified housing needs. I mean, that may or may not fall on stony ground. Development policy 20, but the majority of development is 2-storey in this area, and this is 4-storey, and therefore overbearing. And development point 10, which was raised with Councillor Sweet, which does not allow for families to thrive. And I would also add that I think there are flooding issues in the area which need to be taken into account.
Okay. I mean, as I've said, I think Dev 8, we don't have control over 30 of the houses, flats. We may have one, but which I think is immaterial, really. So I don't think we can include Dev 8, quite frankly.
Okay, and of course, sorry, I should have just said overdevelopment of the site.
Yeah, okay. I think those other areas, the design and the 2 stories are very welcome. Can I just ask, Ms. Houselander, are you happy with that, Mr. Weimer? Do you feel that those are reasons that we could defend at appeal?
Thank you, Chair. I think the design, the height, and the impact on the design issue could be something we could defend at appeal. I don't think we could defend Dev 8, and I'm a bit concerned about Dev 10 because it meets the proposal meets the national space standards, which is also part of Dev 10, and I would suggest that perhaps 1- and 2-bedroom houses are not necessarily for families, but they're more likely to be for couples, single people, and so it's a different type of housing, I think. So, but if members choose to use that one as well, then that's your gift. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Hodgson, you've heard what the planning officer has to say. What are your are you prepared to take out Dev 8, or do you want to keep that in, bearing in mind that other members would have to support that, and the Dev 10 as well, that Ms. Houselander has said that she's concerned about?
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends how you define a family. I mean, a family is, can be 2 people. I mean, I know we talk about families as being larger, but everybody needs to be able to feel they can thrive. They need somewhere that has, enough outside space and actually is not overdevelopment. So I see that it's about supporting the families who live in the wider context. If they're having these overbearing buildings suddenly sort of like springing up and really overtaking, I think it's about allowing families to thrive both in the new build and the existing surrounding area. Yeah, I think in Dev 8, I think it's a really important point, but I think if you feel it won't have thrive at appeal and that therefore could undermine the rest of the argument at appeal, then I'm happy for that to be taken out. I'll take the advice on that. Okay.
I think with Dev 10, though, you're conflating 2 issues there. First of all, there's the neighbourhood amenity that would be affected, which, is perfectly okay. But the idea that people living there, as Ms. Houselander spelt out, that they do fit the current legislation for spatial standards. So whatever you may think, they fit the national, they adhere to the national standards, and therefore they're acceptable as far as national standards are concerned. So I would have concerns about that. But I mean, it's your proposal. So if you want to keep that in, that's so be it.
Yeah, I think I'll leave it in there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Weimer, did you want to say something?
Yes, please, Chair. Similarly to the previous application, if this could be a recommendation delegated to the head of practice to draft and then agree the specific reasons for refusal with chairman, vice chairman, the proposer and seconder. Again, as you know, I don't like getting reasons for refusal absolutely drafted to in entirety on the Hoofert committee, and I'm not quite sure what the objection is or the reason for refusal is around flooding. I'm not aware that we've got any evidence to back up that this will cause any additional flood risk?
Do you want me to reply?
Yeah, if you could, Councillor Hodgson.
Nearly every time we get a flooding problem, I mean, we get heavy rainfall, really heavy rainfall for a few days. The area of Meadowbrook, which is just down from here, constantly floods. And the more we have carbon use in this area, the more we're actually, I mean, it's the carbon issue is a widespread thing, but nevertheless, we're just increasing what's happening in this area. So although there's not going to be any additional covering of hard areas, there is going to be increased drainage coming from all these properties. So I mean, okay, maybe it's only extra one, but they are being designed by the virtue of the increase on this building. They are being designed as bigger properties, so we are likely to see more drainage that's going to be going down towards Meadowbrook and potentially causing part of the flooding there.
Right. Well, I'll leave it up to you again, Councillor Hodgson, but you may find if you put some of these in that you may lose members because they feel that they can object on some things but not on others. And just to remind you that when it goes to appeal, if they feel that there are reasons for objection, even though they may agree with the objection, if they think that there are reasons that are unsubstantiated, they can award costs against us.
Chairman, if I thought we were getting extra sort of grey water recycling and all those kind of measures applied into this, which I don't think we are, then that would actually have an impact. But every new household in an area creates extra drainage matters, and of course that's part of the problem. So we're getting a lot of development on this site, which is going to increase the amount of drainage. I'm not talking about sewage. I'm just talking about the regular drainage.
Okay, I'll just point out that the surface area isn't any larger. The fact that it's higher doesn't make it surface area bigger. So I mean, it's entirely up to you, but I think you'd be hard pushed to say how that is going to increase more surface water runoff. Anyway, Councillor Kemp, you wanted to say something quickly, please?
Yeah, just quickly. I just wanted to say that I think we're in a rock and a hard place with this one, but Councillor Holway has made the most sense of it for me, actually, and that it's not everybody does want a garden and all the rest of it, so I'm yeah, that's all I wanted to say, really.
Thank you for Councillor Kemp. Councillor Foss, I'll come back to you, Councillor Taylor, if required. Councillor Foss.
Yeah, Chairman, I'm a bit concerned. As I intimated earlier on, I am not happy with this application, but I would want to refuse it on really sound grounds. And I'm sorry, I don't see how going upwards is going to increase the flooding problem. So I think we're on thin ice there. I understand where Councillor Hodgson's coming from. I fully understand the issues that down the bottom, but I don't think I could support it with that. Support refusal with the flooding issue added, as you were intimating some of us might not, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Foss. Councillor Long.
I was just going to say very much the same as Councillor Foss. My concern is over the design, the increase in height, and the squeezing in of an extra dwelling above their permitted development rights. I believe we're sort of stepping over the line on these ones, but there are other issues there that are problematic for me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hodgson, you've heard. Yeah, I've just had a message here from Mrs. Foles that if the well, what I would say is we've had a proposal for refusal and the reasons given by Councillor Hodgson. People may want to propose another reason for refuse, so you could refuse on other reasons. But what I'll do is I'll go to the vote on Councillor Hodgson's for refusal. I've then got a proposal for approval, which has been proposed by Councillor Holway. And I think Councillor Taylor wishes to second that. So, right, so we move to Councillor Hodgson. Do you want to say something very quickly? a minute?
Yes, yes, I did. If I may, just to say that I think, Councillor, if I'm happy to drop the flooding one, if that's the one that sort of is going to make this difficult, I'd rather make a stronger position for refusal. So I'm happy to incorporate the other points that have been made and make this one that everybody can agree on.
Okay, that's fine. And so I think that's good. I think that clears that up somewhat. We've got Mr. Weimer has already said that we haven't given the definitive reasons for refusal, but I think you've got a feel for what it is, and that is mainly to do with the design and the increase in size, height, the Dev 10 spaces. I think is something that we need to go very carefully on that, but take on board what you say, Councillor. So let's move to the vote for refusal. Mr. Weimer's just asking, is Dev 8 in or out, Councillor Hodgson? Dev 8 was the
out.
So Dev 8's out. So we've got rid of Dev 8, got rid of the flooding. We're definitely going on Dev 20, I think it is, and aspects of Dev 10 we'll certainly look at.
Yeah, and overdevelopment of the site as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right, members. So over to Miss Young, please, for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. If, as usual, you can confirm you have heard all of the debate and then let me know how you are voting on refusal for this application. Councillor Abbott.
I have heard all the debate and I vote against refusal of this application.
Thank you. Councillor Brazil.
I've heard of all of the debate and I'm against refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
I have heard all the debate and I vote against refusal of this application.
Thank you. Councillor Foss.
I've heard all of the debate and I vote for refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgson.
I've heard all of the debate and I vote for refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Holway.
I've heard all of the debate and I vote against refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp.
I've heard all of the debate and I'm going to abstain. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
I have heard all of the debate and I vote for refusal.
Thank you. Councillor O'Callaghan.
I've heard all the debate and I vote for refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Pringle.
I've heard all the debate and I vote against refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
I've heard all the debate and I vote for refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
I've heard all the debate and I vote against refusal.
Thank you. That's 6 against, 5 for, and 1 abstention. Therefore, the proposal to refuse has been lost.
Thank you. Right, we'll now move to it. Councillor Taylor, if you could just verbally say it, because people don't pick up the comments, that you happy to second Councillor Holway's recommendation for approval.
Yes, I would like to second Councillor Holway's recommendation for the acceptance of the approval. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, in which case we'll now move to the vote for approval. Over to you, Ms Young.
Sorry, can we just check what conditions are going in on this before we do that?
It's as per the officer recommendation.
Okay, so the suggestion I made about sort of 0.5 lux maximum light outspill over that wildlife corridor, that hasn't been taken on board yet.
My understanding is that there are conditions on external lighting. Am I correct?
Sorry, can I just come in there? Sorry, Councillor Brazil.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yes, so there is a condition to for the applicants to submit a whole new lighting scheme for the whole site. It could be, if you would like, that I could add a small sentence to refer to the 0.5 lux, if that would be.
Yeah, if you could, that would be great. Yeah. I think members would support that. Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Thank you, Ms House. And then let's move to the. If we can move to the vote, then. So over to you, Ms Young.
Thank you, Chair. Again, if you can confirm that you've heard all of the debate and how you are voting on approval for this application. Councillor Abbott.
I have heard all the debate and I vote for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Brazil.
I've heard all the debate and I vote for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
I have heard all of the debate and I vote for approval.
Councillor Foss.
I've heard all of the debate and I will abstain this time.
Yep. Councillor Hodgson.
I've heard all of the debate and I vote against approval.
Thank you. Councillor Hallway.
I've heard all of the debate and I vote for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp.
I've had all the debate and I'm still abstaining.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
I have heard all of the debate and I vote against approval.
Councillor O'Callaghan.
I've heard all the debate and I vote against approval.
Thank you. Councillor Pringle.
I've heard all the debate and I vote for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
I've heard all the debate and I vote against approval.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
I've heard all the debate and I vote for approval.
Thank you. Therefore, that is 6 for approval, 4 against and 2 abstaining. Therefore, the proposal, the application is approved.
Thank you, members. So that application is approved. I suggest, because we've been running late, that I will adjourn the meeting now and we don't start until 2:15 now. Sorry for members of the public, whatever, but we won't start on the next application until 2:15.